Let me tell you a story that starts the way a nightmare at the airport usually begins. Imagine standing in line at TSA security, shoes off, laptop out, liquids in a little plastic bag, and suddenly, you feel the spotlight on you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because someone decided you look suspicious. That's what happened to Michelle, a 35-year-old black woman flying out of Washington Dulles on a chilly morning. She wasn't nervous, at least not at first. Michelle had flown hundreds of times. She was used to the routine. But that morning was different. She was wearing a tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, and carried herself with quiet confidence. Yet the officer at the security checkpoint, a middle-aged white man with a rigid jaw, locked eyes on her in a way that made her stomach twist. "Step aside, ma'am," he said flatly. Now, most of us know what that means, extra screening. But Michelle noticed he wasn't saying the same thing to the three businessmen in front of her, even though one of them had left a water bottle in his bag. She stepped aside, calm but alert. The officer waved her into a small inspection area and began asking questions. "Where are you headed? Why are you traveling? Who packed your bags?" The usual, but his tone wasn't usual. It was loaded, sharp, as if he had already decided she didn't belong. Michelle answered each question with patience. She had learned long ago not to escalate situations like this. But the officer pressed harder. He demanded she open every compartment of her carry-on. He swabbed her laptop twice. He checked her purse 3 times. And then, in a voice that carried across the checkpoint, he asked, "Do you have any proof you're here legally?" Heads turned. People in line stared. Michelle's cheeks burned hot, not from guilt, but from the sting of humiliation. She took a breath, steadying herself. She had promised herself years ago she would never let anyone strip her of dignity, not again. To understand Michelle's calm, you need to know her backstory. Michelle excelled in school, went to Howard University, and later joined the State Department. She had spent years overseas, negotiating trade deals, meeting ambassadors, and representing the United States in places where being a black woman diplomat raised eyebrows, but she never let it shake her. If anything, it made her sharper. She knew how to walk into a room where people doubted her and leave them convinced. But here, back home in America, at her own airport, a TSA officer looked at her and saw only suspicion. "Sir," Michelle said firmly, "I've answered your questions. Is there a reason you're detaining me?" The officer narrowed his eyes. "You'll stay here until we clear you. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." That was the tipping point. Michelle reached into her purse slowly, deliberately. The officer stiffened, hand hovering near his belt, as if she were about to pull something dangerous. Instead, she pulled out a dark blue passport with a gold crest, different from the standard one most travelers carry. She opened it, showing the bold letters, "Diplomatic Passport." With it came a letter of assignment, embossed with the seal of the United States government. "I'm on official travel," she said, voice steady. "You're detaining a U.S. diplomat. Do you understand what that means?" The officer froze. His bravado cracked. He glanced at the passport, then back at Michelle, then over his shoulder. A supervisor rushed over, took one look, and the color drained from his face. "Ma'am, apologies for the inconvenience. Please, right this way." Michelle didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She gathered her things, every movement precise, and walked through the checkpoint with her head high. The passengers who had been watching whispered among themselves. Some looked away, embarrassed. Others looked at her with newfound respect. Now here's the part most people don't see. Michelle didn't just walk onto her plane and forget about it. No. On the flight, she sat by the window and thought about how many others face the same suspicion every single day, but without the shield of a diplomatic passport. Without the power of a title. Without the safety net of influence. She thought of her brother, pulled over 3 times in 1 month for driving suspiciously. She thought of her mother, once accused of shoplifting simply because she lingered too long in an aisle. She thought of herself at 19, standing in a mall while security followed her from store to store. And she thought, how many more humiliations do we endure in silence? Her mind spiraled back to her career. She remembered standing in an embassy in Nairobi, negotiating alongside diplomats from Europe who looked at her like she was the assistant rather than the lead negotiator. She remembered correcting them, not once, not twice, but firmly every single time, until they addressed her by title. And now, she had just experienced that same dismissal at home, from someone sworn to protect her. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Power protects me. But who protects those without it?" She decided then that this story wouldn't end quietly. She filed a report. She wrote directly to TSA leadership. She told colleagues at the State Department. Not because she wanted revenge, but because silence allows the cycle to continue. And slowly, her story spread. Other travelers reached out. Some had similar tales, some worse, and together they painted a picture too vivid to ignore. The officer who detained her. He was disciplined, retrained, and removed from his post for a time. But Michelle knew the issue was bigger than one officer. It was systemic. It was about perception, about who gets seen as safe, and who gets seen as suspect. And here's the takeaway. Michelle's diplomatic passport opened a door that day, but it also exposed a truth. It shouldn't take privilege or power to be treated with respect. It shouldn't take a special document for your dignity to be recognized. We owe that to each other as human beings. So next time you see something like this, someone being singled out unfairly, someone treated as less, remember Michelle's story. Remember that silence helps no one. Speak up. Push back. And if you've ever been through something like this, share it. Because the more we tell these stories, the harder they are to ignore. What do you think? Was the officer just doing his job, or was it bias, plain and simple? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you felt something while listening to this story, hit that like button, it helps more people hear it. Until next time, stay aware, stay bold, and never let anyone strip away your dignity. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, hit the subscribe button now and get instant notification for more interesting stories like this.